Where are we?
I'm Bumblebee. Oh,
Here we are. Wait, hold on.
Hey.
That's a good question.
Where are we?
Damn. Who do you guys want to be?
Oh shit! I mean, Optimus Prime seems like the most.
So there's okay. Let me intro the show, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah. Let's.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Next Issue podcast. On today's, as you could probably tell by the intro and Jeff's shirt and the thumbnail for the video, this weekend marks the 40th anniversary of the Transformers animated show, right? Which is the first. Is that the first incarnation of the franchise?
I think
right?
so.
on TV, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because of that, we're doing a very special show with a few things. So we'll be talking about the Transformers movie from 1986. Then I'll be leaving. And then,
and then we're having our Zack Snyder special.
Yeah.
Whatever happens after I leave, I hold no responsibility for. I'm not accountable for. It does not reflect my views and or opinions on the topic. Yeah, we'll see what happens after that. So let's get back to it. What was did you guys, I assume, watch the animated show originally?
Oh yeah. Heck yeah.
And I would run home from school because you would watch it live on television. There was no streaming back in the day.
I would randomly watch episodes, so I didn't know all the canon and everything. So I was more of a Robotech guy. That was my run home from school to watch cartoons.
Excuse me.
I've said this before, like where I lived at the time, which was Prattville, Alabama. They didn't get any of like Voltron or Robotech, so I missed the whole like 80s anime wave. But yeah, Transformers came on in the morning just before I had to leave for school, and then G.I. Joe came on right when I got home from school. So it was a nice sandwich kind of day for me usually. So
you were just stuck with Davy and Goliath cartoons the whole time because
it's only Sundays.
Yeah, which would explain a lot about me if that were the case. So
right. So I think a bunch of theaters are doing the release of maybe like the first 4 episodes of the cartoon. Are any of you guys going to that?
I would like to.
I would like to. I might still. I think it's sometime this week. It's 3 days they're showing them, and it's one of those random event kind of things.
Yeah.
If I could get to the theater, I'd be seeing apes.
Yeah, me too. Actually, it's a good point. Which theater chain is doing? Is it AMC?
I think so. If it's Fathom Events, usually AMC has those.
Yeah, I don't know if it's Fathom or not, but it's it's definitely it's like they're showing the first 4 episodes of the entire series.
Let's I want to get into the movie because that was the first time I had ever seen it.
Same.
And here's my experience. Really? Oh, okay.
Wow, all right. I'm intrigued. I saw it in the theater. I just think I've never seen it in the theater. So yeah.
I saw it day 1 in the theater. First show. I was like, I made my mom take me. She dropped me off. This is one of those core memories of mine. And then after it left the theater, I would call my local video store like every week, being like, "Hey, has this been released on VHS yet?" Like I was obsessed with this movie.
All right, I want to take you guys through some of my notes as I was watching this for the first time. It won't take too long because it is a Transformers movie, so I just decided to give up on making notes. I was like, what am I doing?
What am I doing? Danny's thesis.
I watched the 4K re-release of this, and it looks fantastic. It looks great. So it looks really crisp, even from the beginning.
I watched a YouTube rip.
Oh.
Hey, the spectrum of how you watch this film is why if you had found a way to connect the YouTube, like your computer, to like an old TV, you would have gotten the full 86 experience.
Well, there was actually a moment because it was a rip on YouTube because I couldn't find it anywhere streaming. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's streaming.
yeah, which is awful. And so I just was playing it, and then a song started playing, and I'm like, did they add music to this? Because Dare to Be Stupid was playing in.
No, that's in the.
Part of it.
And here's the funny
soundtrack for
thing.
this is insane.
If you look at the soundtrack to this, right? Because at the end, as they were all going by, I was just trying to see who was on it. It is a very 1980s kind of pop rock, slight metal kind of approach, right? The only musician on there that has any legacy at all is Weird Al Yankovic. like, has anyone heard of Lion? Has anyone heard of like all these other bands? No, none at all. But Weird Al, absolutely.
That's probably why the YouTube rip doesn't get taken down for copyright, even with the songs on.
You know, that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I was just really surprised because at first I thought, oh, they got Devo because they have a pretty eclectic soundtrack, you know, from
was
the
Devo
main-
a hard get in the 80s?
Yeah.
They would have been. I mean, this could have only been a year after that Weird Al album came out. Like I remember we owned it in our house. That's the kind of house we were. And when this came on the soundtrack, I was like over the moon. I'm like, oh my god, it's Weird Al! Like I was like, it was amazing. So
Anime didn't make it into Alabama, but that Weird Al.
we were doing the Columbia mail record thing. So
Ooh.
So what did you
Fancy
think of
household.
what did you think of the cast? Like as you're sitting there watching it for the first time, you're seeing that Orson Welles and Judd Nelson and Leonard Nimoy are all in this movie.
So that was cool. Let me finish my notes because like I tell you what, and I'll get into that right now. I did see that this was done by Toei Animation, which explains why it looks so good.
yeah.
I have the next note is immediate high stakes Unicron strikes, and then I stopped taking notes.
I
That's
was
it.
just surprised how much action it was.
Yeah.
Like first of all, you got like widescreen animation approval that's like 10 times better than the cartoon on TV. At times they do have that TV animation style, but the space stuff was fantastic. I mean, it was just like America had discovered anime. It was doing it for the first time in 1984 for this movie because it was really, really good. Because I don't think I would have, if I had seen this first, because I think the first movie I saw with an animation this level was Akira in a few years. So it'd be like 88, 89.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah.
Let me name off some big names to Jeff's point. So Orson Welles voices Unicron.
Last roll. Last
Last
credited
roll
roll.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yes.
Leonard Nimoy voices Galvatron, which is interesting because obviously it's cool that you have two different, like it's Megatron, right, in the Galvatron form, but it's which is a whole other thing. I remember zero names from anyone. We have, what are some of the other big names? Judd Nelson, as you mentioned, a young Judd Nelson, I think at the time. Scatman Crothers voices Jazz.
I know. I love Scatman Crothers, and I didn't know he did a voice in Transformers.
Greg Berger. Oh, those Dinobots.
Oh, I know.
Oh boy. Robert Stack voices Ultra Magnus.
Which is really weird because it's just the Unsolved Mysteries host and you're in a Transformer.
Yeah. Yeah, the cast for this is insane. Peter Cullen voices Optimus Prime, of course, and a few others. So I think all the voices from the cartoon came back for this.
I believe so, yeah.
So were Unicron and some of those other characters like originals to the film?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So the thing the film does that in retrospect, watching it again, that I find fascinating is it jumps ahead about 20, 30 years, right? So the kid in the series is now an adult with his own son.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right? Yeah. And so, but as a kid watching that, it was very confusing, right? I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what?
Oh, this movie is like as a 8, 9-year-old kid, or however old I was watching this So they use this movie to introduce a whole new characters to push out new toys.
Yeah.
What they didn't know at the time was killing off all the old characters would cause serious trauma to a bunch of 8-year-olds who've been following these characters for a year. And this is the first like super fandom like that we've had in our life. Like He-Man and Transformers are the first two things.
My toy is dead.
Right.
Imagine them killing off He-Man like a year into He-Man. Like that is what they've done here at the Transformers.
I mean,
that's
what Kevin Smith did with his new cartoon, right? Like, Adam died in like the first few episodes.
So, all right, but I do have a question. Like, I had not watched this, God, in probably 15 years. It'd been a long time. I did forget how violent it is.
Yeah.
And I was kind of wondering, again, in my brain, comparing this with the G.I. Joe animated film, right? I know I've always heard, it was a way of, we're going to get rid of this generation of characters to bring in this new generation, or we're going to modify them. So Megatron becomes Galvatron and so on, right? But I have to wonder if the producers and like the toy people were like, well, we can go ultra violent in this because we're only killing robots. Like, we're not killing humans. So just amp up, right? I mean, because it is intense. Like, there are so many deaths in this movie.
They pushed for the PG rating. So they added a curse word. Like
there's shit and there's a damn.
Yeah, I think they added the shit. Yeah, they added the second curse word.
Okay,
because they were trying to get to
if I heard that correctly.
I had to go back and turn on subtitles to make sure I heard it correctly. So, yeah. Sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
Oh no, that was it. They yes, you're correct. They wanted to push a slightly older audience. I don't know what the thinking was behind it, but they did go hard. And the interesting thing is, I don't know if you guys have seen I think it's the '85 G.I. Joe movie that came out later. So that was done before. It actually was that was supposed to come out before Transformers, but Transformers hit so big they pushed Transformers first.
Oh, interesting.
They also killed off Duke in that movie initially, and then once the backlash to Optimus Prime's death happened, they retconned in the movie. They went back and edited the movie, and they put him in a coma, and they said he lived at the end of it. It was some
there's
ADR, but
there's one really awkward line at the end, like just as they're panning across, it's like, and Duke's okay.
Yeah, right.
It's like military dudes never die.
Yeah, right.
I want to see G.I. Joe goes to the VFW.
Yeah. Well, and they produced a third because they also produced the My Little Pony movie, and I don't think they tried to kill off any ponies, but that's the script I want to see. Where they're like, we need to kill off all these old ponies and get some new product in there.
I've read that script. It's even more violent.
Yeah. Danny DeVito goes ham in that movie.
I think Jeff is working for Danny DeVito marketing because this is the second time you bring him up.
Who doesn't love Danny DeVito?
Yeah,
so go back and watch those old Cheers episodes. Come on.
Yeah. I'm gonna start a taxi and then move forward from there. It was funny because you mentioned that the death of Optimus Prime, because they passed on that Matrix on the movie twice. I thought everything was leading to I don't know what the name of the first. I know zero names here.
Yeah, it was tough to follow all the names.
Yeah, but the first time he passes the Matrix, he gives it to
Ultra Magnus,
and then I guess I should have put it together because I am an adult and not an 8-year-old child. Is it Hot Rod that commented on it that he was actually the one that eventually became, I don't know, Rodimus Prime or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
Rodimus Prime.
Rodimus Prime, yes, because that just rolls off the tongue. I distinctly remember, even as a kid, now I would have been, if it's 86, I was 11. Even as a kid, I was frustrated by what this movie was trying to do. Because give me one moment where we understand Ultra Magnus as a character. It is never established. He is just this Deus Ex Machina in the movie to be given the Matrix and die. And I remember the kid when Prime dies, and I'm like, oh my God. And then he hands it off to this weirdo. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? I'm like, obviously the hot rod guy's the hero. I mean, I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Do you think they just wanted to do another like a trailer toy? So that's why they made Ultraman. He also transformed into an 18-wheeler, right?
Yeah.
So,
Which is why they
the
were
original. I think in the original toys, like the original Japanese toys, I could be butchering this. Then apologies to anybody. I think they're Optimus Prime and the characters are brothers or something like that because it's the exact same toy figure. They're just painted differently. And the Ultra Magnus toy is Optimus
That's
Prime,
racist,
but with like armor or something like that.
That's racist.
So
they look the same. Okay, not all robots, all right, Jeff. Yeah, I want to go over some of the soundtrack too, because
I'm buying the soundtrack. This is fantastic.
They want. I don't know how much they paid for the touch by Dan Bush, but boy, oh boy, did they get their money's worth.
They got their money's worth. Yeah, absolutely.
You got the touch.
Now,
all afternoon yesterday.
Stan Bush recorded another song for the new Transformers show that's on Netflix, and he has a video of it on his channel.
I did not know this.
Really?
Heat of Attack.
I'm gonna go look this up right after the show.
So we have instruments of destruction. We also have instruments of destruction by NRG. There, that's another Stan Bush song.
I mean, this is a full-on workout mixtape. Like honestly,
don't play too much of it, Clay. And we can't hear it. So,
there it is.
Nice.
Honestly, that's all I need. That's the
that's probably all we should take anyway.
Whoa! What was?
Nope. Yeah, this is good enough.
Sleeveless suit.
In the court of a shadow warrior.
There we go.
Cool.
Means business.
Very cool.
Oh God! Oh man! Wow!
Nothing's gonna stand in our way. Kick-Axe. Then of course we have the "Dare to Be Stupid" by Weird Al Yankovic. A lot of Kick-Axe songs. Hunger.
Yeah. And I looked up Lion, the band Lion that Josh was goofing on. They seem to have done like the Transformers movie, Friday the 13th, the final chapter. They did a song in that, and in The Wraith. So they did like a lot of soundtrack songs.
Huh.
Hey, stick to what you're good at. As soon as that song kicked on, I was like, oh hell yeah, we're in. But
they did disband after the lead singer suffered a broken neck after falling off a cliff while competing in a motorcycle race. So they didn't disband out of disinterest.
Another thing I'm gonna say is that I think this was. I mean, first of all, Unicron. What a fucking great villain.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I 100%. I have one tiny complaint, which will earn me the ire of everyone that loves this movie. I don't think he should have transformed at the end. He is way scarier as a big fucking orb than he is with the weird dragon wings.
I don't specifically love his aesthetic of turning everyone into a purple samurai type of robot after he gives him his power. I guess that's his personal touch.
How does facial hair work on robots?
Apparently, it's a hard plate that moves like this when they talk.
But they can shave. We saw in I don't even want to get into the Michael Bay stuff, but one of those had a long beard. The tank, the voice by John Goodman, right?
Yeah, he also had a cigar, which was like, cool. What are you smoking?
It was a cigar that was like a missile.
How do you inhale?
Because it exploded. He was just smoking a missile or something.
Because I've also been reading All Hail Megatron, and there's another character in here that has a cigar, but it isn't lit. It's just a piece of machinery that hangs out of his mouth.
One of my favorite moments was when I think is it Soundwave, the one that has all the cassettes inside of his chest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Now Megatron instructs Soundwave to intercept the signal, so he lets out all his cassettes that turn into random different things.
And
And
one looks
they
like a
go-
little person.
Yeah, so
Two of 'em.
The Autobots are broadcasting, SOS, so that Optimus can come help them. And I was like, oh, they're gonna do some tech stuff to like disrupt the signal. Nope, they just go in and rip up the antenna. These are advanced robots. Like, why did Soundwave need to send them to do that? He could have just done that, or Megatron, which is another.
They're
hilarious
small and
thing.
agile, but they're small and agile and cool.
Exactly.
And then you wouldn't
How-
have gotten the second scene where the good cassette tape guy also ejects all the
Also-
little other robots that live inside of him, so they can all fight.
That's a very weird.
And
I want a comic
what's
of that
the-
relationship.
Yeah, what is the difference between his sentience and the little person that lives in him as a cassette? Is he not sentient? Is he just
No,
a-
they all have
in his
individual
chest?
personalities
You
too.
do, yeah. So you got Laserbeak, you got I forget the two little guys. I had one of them.
Rumble and Ravage.
And
then
they
there's the
all
Panther,
have-
Yeah.
Ravage is Rumble and I can't remember the other one.
the
Yeah.
Panther-looking one, right?
Panther's
Uh,
Ravage.
Okay.
Rat
Which
Bat
we've
is the
seen-
bat.
We've seen a lot of those in the comic or the current comic. It is
Yeah.
cool. It is cool to see that Daniel Warren Johnson didn't really update a lot of the designs.
No, they're classic. It's great. I love it.
I got another question, and probably Jeff, you can answer this. Why does Megatron transform into a smaller gun if he can just fire out of his arm? Is it stronger when he's in?
Does he have different
transform?
caliber bullets?
I think
He
it's
transforms into a
supposedly a
gun.
little stronger in the gun form.
He
That was my
transforms into a smaller gun that goes
Yeah.
into Starscream hand, and he starts shooting Megatron.
But remember, Starscream is big too, so it's still a larger than life normal gun.
Well, yeah,
The things are all crazy. Like
but a robot that's slightly bigger than Starscream transforms into a gun that fits in Starscream's hand. It's not like
Yeah.
if it was like a bazooka or something, it would make more sense, right? I don't. The
So
shape.
I think the
differential-
power levels, of Megatron shift dramatically depending
Well-
on what they need him to do.
I think all the shape sizes shift dramatically too. Like they get denser, I guess, and smaller, and as
Yeah,
needed.
well, they come from two different toy lines in Japan. The two,
Right, yeah.
How do the
so
bullets
that's how they-
work? How do the bullets work?
Well,
they're
they
just laser. They're just energy.
They're just
energy.
lasers.
So that part doesn't bother me as much.
but
Can I
yeah,
also say, like, just the writing in this movie goes so hard at times. Like, there's the scene where Megatron's dying and Starscream's about to kick him out of the shuttle,
Oh,
and he's
yeah.
like, "Wait, I'm still alive," and he's like, "You want to bet?" And he like lets him go. I'm like, that is an awesome line that does not get enough credit.
and I do. Okay, there were there's very little that I recall in the G.I. Joe movie that is genuinely funny or terrifying. Like I love that movie, but it's very much a kind of even keeled presentation, right? The line in this one where after the battle and Starscream kind of takes over and he's like, well, we have to get rid of the dead weight. All those in favor, and the good one's like, aye, and all those not in favor, all the records like, no. And I still laughed out loud at that. That was solid humor. So
Yeah, Starscream is just as sleazy as he is in the current comic, and I love it.
so good. Yeah.
But Soundwave, I get it. He's cool. Like it
Yeah,
makes
that voice.
sense.
This is the thing I want to give props to in the new comic is Soundwave's getting his due. Because in the old cartoon with that voice, I was always like, why isn't he the leader? He's so cool.
There are also little other things like Casey Kasem is the voice of I forget which robot, but he does the countdown, which I think is super funny. If you knew who Casey Kasem was,
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that. That's hilarious.
Well, I mean,
What-
he did so many cartoons in the 70s.
Yeah, Shaggy.
Shaggy.
What's the Transformer that talks really fast?
Blur.
Blur.
He was annoying as fuck.
It's
He was
the
like,
Micro Machines guy. But
The
they
Micro Machines guy.
created him for the movie, right? Didn't they bring him in because Micro Machines had just hit it big? Or was this pre-Micro Machines?
This might be around the time of Micro
Yeah,
Machines.
I like
sounds
that.
right.
I like that. They reference the suit. I mean, the exosuit that Daniel, which is great,
Mhm.
great character name.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah.
a great character. Because if you a little spoiler for Rise of the Beast, Anthony Ramos' character puts on an exosuit, very similar.
Oh, interesting.
So
Oh,
yeah,
I
go
didn't
watch
even think
that.
about
It's a
that.
good
Put those two
film.
things together in my head.
Yeah, no, they are definitely reaching into all like. It's funny to see this after I've seen that because I'm like, oh, that's what you're referencing. So I bet if I go back into the original cartoon, I'll find things that even I'm sure even the Michael Bay films, as you know, whatever you think of them, like they're getting all the stuff from the cartoons. They're just like making it cool, right? So for
Yeah,
the
I just
2000s,
without Kyle
I would-
here, how many deep cuts are we missing from Transformers?
Probably a lot.
probably run around yelling at the TV. At the,
There's gonna have to be a Kyle responds segment next time.
he's gonna leave. He's gonna. I hope Kyle leaves just a thesis in the comments of
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
So,
The
all right,
Wikipedia page of information.
I'm about to start heading out, so I guess I'll end with this, and you guys obviously can kind of continue. I enjoyed the film. I don't know that it's something that I would go back to my movie store right away, but I also haven't been Transformer pilled like Jeff was when he was a young kid. But it is fun. It's a mess of a film as far as like the story because it's just like we move here and then we do a big battle. We come here. The Dino
I love the
Bots-
action.
yeah, there's a lot of.
But
really
you
cool
also have to remember that everybody, like, we were all getting super sugary Cokes for the first time in our lives. Like, there hadn't been a backlash yet where people are like, hey, maybe we should stop giving these kids all this sugar.
Yeah.
You had
so,
a
like,
nation
you're-
of cornholios.
Yeah. So they had to keep that action going because they were.
Yeah, that because I looked and I was like, how are we only at 20 minutes? So much has happened.
Yeah, exactly.
It feels like a 3-hour film. And
Listen,
it's only
Bluey
like
never
an hour
goes
and a
this
half.
hard.
Although there is more swearing in Bluey, it's very weird. It's great accents.
That's just the way they talk over there in Australia.
I just say, bring
Bluey
it, Paw
calling
Patrol.
everyone.
Paw Patrol ever kill off anybody? No.
Not yet.
Yeah,
Yeah. Zack Snyder's Paw
The
Patrol.
body cam footage hasn't been released, Jeff.
I'm gonna take a Paw Patrol, put it in black and white, and just put it in slow mo. And
There you go. Over like a Nick Cave song, and then you're all
like a little rain filter in front of
Make
it.
it like David Lynch's Paw Patrol, Clay. Cool.
I know exactly what it's gonna be.
Yeah, I'm in a jet, but
All right.
you guys have a good one. I'll try to pop in the chat, and stay tuned for all that. Yeah, you guys have fun. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and have a good
Wait.
show. All right,
Yeah.
you guys.
have a fun time, man.
Yeah, win. All right, so who's in charge of this monkey?
I don't know. I'm assuming you're Jeff because Lord knows I have no access to anything.
Well, you guys are the hardcore Transformers, so like you guys watch the shows, but like obviously aren't big on the Michael Bay films. But Bumblebee and Rise of the Beast are pretty great.
I haven't seen either of them. I need to. I've heard
I
Bumblebee is
Bumblebee.
really good. Yeah.
Bumblebee is great. The problem I have with the Bayformer stuff is that, I did try to watch some of it in preparation for this. I also tried to watch Transmorphers, which is awful.
Ooh, the hell is that?
Transmorphers is the Asylum version of Transformers. Asylum being the studio that makes ripoff
Yeah.
versions of
Pacific
like,
Rim, and they
you know,
made Atlantic Rim.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So,
And Atlantic Rim was a Mystery Science Theater film, so
I'm gonna have to track that one down. That sounds amazing.
it's so bad. I saw it with and without Mystery Science Theater. I was just like, how does this exist? How does this exist as a film, as entertainment, as someone who would put their name on it and say this is good?
well, they hit big with the Sharknado films because I think those are all Asylum
Oh.
productions too.
Okay.
And then there was like a 5-year gap where they were just like, no, they're not making real movies, but they were, they got some bigs.
Yeah, it seems like their budget is like we get like 1 or 2 big name stars and half a script, and we throw a movie on the screen, and that's it. Because it's
Big
just
name
it
stars
has
is
to
a
be name.
pretty liberal. These are some B-level older usually. Ian, what's his name from 90210?
Oh, from 90210, yeah.
Yeah.
He was in
Steve.
Sharknado.
Oh, Ian Ziering.
Yeah.
Ian
Ziering, who's also Blue
Tiffany.
Devil in the Swamp Thing DC universe.
Oh, really?
Oh. Wait, the live action one they did, or
Yeah, the live action one, they had Blue Devil in it, and
really?
yeah, and he was
How did he look?
like a demon. Like it was really fucking wild looking, and
That's awesome.
it sucks because the show got cut, so like the last 2 episodes were kind of diluted down to winding up the show and cut Blue Devil out.
So Clay, you mentioned earlier that you were more of a Robotech guy.
Yeah.
And they're basic. I mean, they're not quite the same thing, but transforming things.
Well, I had the same, like in the way that you guys watch this and watch Optimus Prime die. Like there's this character in there, Rick, who's like this pilot who ends up joining the military, and then he's like head of like a squadron, and one of his squadron dies in the show. I think his name was Max. And I was just like, holy fuck. Like, I've never seen, like, even on, like, Super Friends, like, you know, you would think, oh, well, a bad guy would never die. And it's like, no, they never do. Like, no one ever dies in G.I. Joe. No one ever, you know. And now I got a show where it's like, they are at war. Someone died. And now we have to go the future episodes as they remember this guy. And I was like, it just weirded me out. But it was also neat to understand that Robotech was a weird amalgam of Japanese anime, 3 different series,
Right.
called Robotech here, and then rewritten in English to conform all those 3 into one story, but different generations.
Yeah.
So while I think it's the 3rd Robotech series is Mospeta 23 in Japan, the second one's like Southern Cross. And Robotech, the first season is just Macross. So if you ever saw Macross, that's basically it's summed up in that series, but rewritten for an American audience with a different storyline. So it has different. So it is different. And Americans saw this, and they even did a movie version, but then it had nothing to do with any of the series. It was a weird property.
I also watched a lot of. I don't have the memories of Robotech that I do of like Transformers, but I saw the whole thing, and I remember like all 3 series except for the last one. I always missed like the last couple of episodes, and I'd be so upset because again, it's like appointment television. You have to be there, or you just miss it. You know?
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's never aired again that you know of.
Never aired again. And I tried. I mean, and now you can obviously hunt these things down. But I cannot. It is my brain is like, this is way too slow for me now. Like that Robotech is like, I don't know how I watched it as a kid, because I try to watch it as an adult, and I'm like, oh, they're going to a dance now. Okay, I'm gonna watch them go to this nightclub for like 20 minutes of this cartoon. What's going on? Where's the action? You know?
Yeah, I feel like again, I've only seen the first maybe 2 episodes of Macross, and I need to go back and rewatch it because I've got Clay and other friends who are huge fans of it, and they're like, it's the greatest thing ever. And I'm like, all right, I need to check it out. But I do love the idea. Like, you can see clear parallels, right? Because I always felt like, and I know there's at least one. It's either Starscream or this guy. Who aren't these also Macross robot designs? There's one robot design that's
the Jetfire.
Jetfire, okay. And when you think about in the opening of Macross, where you get the big alien spaceship that lands on Earth, and then time passes and it just becomes this like city, right? It looks a lot like the wrecked ship in the opening of Transformers that lands on Earth. I mean, it's like there are these clear parallels. There were like it's like a Venn diagram. There's like this like tiny little sliver where Transformers and the Robotech kind of overlap. So I don't know. I am I'll be honest, it was a hard rewatch because again, I feel like the pacing is not like who is the audience for this movie in '86, right? It's
People that will buy toys.
me too. I went and saw it, but it's too violent for.
Sadly, it's Toys R Us kids.
Yeah, it's too. I mean, and they wonder why Gen X is so fucking scarred, right? Like it's like it's too violent for kids, really. But it's no adult at that point would have really. I mean, that was still an era where like kids media was for kids.
Yeah, cartoons were for kids, and you had very few exceptions.
Yeah.
So there was, I mean, this is obviously pre-internet, but there was a huge backlash to how violent and like how filled to this movie was. Like there were mothers writing campaign, like kids were coming out of the theater crying and stuff. But there was just no, because it's like a little kids property back in '86, nobody paid much attention to it.
Yeah.
The movie did, so they were already like halfway through the third season, like the next season with all these new characters by the time the movie had come out and the backlash had come out. So they quickly put into production, we're bringing Optimus Prime back to life. Like he came back to life in the cartoon. And they were trying to like rectify some of these problems through the cartoon in that next season. But yeah, I think it's kind of one of those first times that they were like, oh, like the producers were like, we just need to push out more product, get rid of the old one. And they weren't really thinking about who they were.
It's so cynical. I mean, it's so cynical.
It was just disposable stuff to them because all those toys. I mean, that's the thing is about all these cartoons we had at the time were set to just really sell toys. I mean, and then they eventually made laws to where entertainment on Saturday morning had to be like educational or informational and couldn't just be a toy commercial for 30 minutes.
Right.
So it's like if you see Saturday morning shows now, they usually will have like an E or an I at the top to let you know, oh, hey, we're not selling you toys. This is educational.
Mm-hmm. Man,
stupid
stupid
government ruins everything.
Exactly. So I had to look it up. Michael Bay would have been 21 when this movie came out. I actually thought he was a little younger than that.
I did too.
So, yeah, because it's clear that, again, I'm not a fan of his Transformers movies, but the one thing he did right was casting Peter Cullen to come back as Optimus Prime. Like that was, I recall at the time it felt like fan service, but that was the right move, right? Because we identify Optimus Prime with that one voice. Like when I read the comics, I hear it in Peter Cullen's voice. So, and I do want to give props. Like I didn't realize. So when Megatron transforms into Galvatron, and his voice changes, I thought it was the same actor, just doing a deeper voice. I want to give props at least to Leonard Nimoy for not phoning it in. For coming in and being like, okay, well, wait, what's the character sound like normally? All right, because he's riffing off of that Megatron voice. And it actually doesn't even really sound like Leonard Nimoy. I mean, it sounds like a different version of Megatron. And that's impressive. I mean, he wasn't just like, what is, I can only imagine the recording sessions with Orson Welles for this movie must have been a fucking nightmare.
I bet.
They say it is. They say it is.
Oh my God.
In fact, there's a rumor that one of the producers, it's actually not Orson Welles, it's one of the producers had to come back in and redo the lines.
Oh, really?
They just gave Orson Welles the credit that some of the lines aren't even his.
Oh, wow. Huh. God, that's bad.
I just don't see how Chris Hemsworth is going to be able to pull off Optimus Prime in this new movie because he's just Chris Hemsworth. He's just Thor. Like, he's not a voice actor.
Well, I think it's because Optimus is younger in this, they're going with just a kind of like younger voice, which
before he hit puberty.
Yes. Yeah. How I still sound today. So, yeah. It's I don't know. It's going to be weird. This whole prequel thing I'm finding very strange.
Yeah.
I try not to. So when I was watching the Bayformers, I what I try to do is I'm like, I've had my time with my thing that I love.
Right.
This is not for me. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
this is, the Bay, as I was watching them, I was like, it makes sense if you are coming to Transformers fresh in the 21st century, that they would look more like organic metal beings, like the technology. Like it wouldn't make sense for them to be these giant blocky robots anymore. Like they should look like. But then I'm like, but I still can't like tell what's really going on or whatever in the fight scenes. I'm like, it's just a bunch of jibber jabber on my
Exactly.
on my screen. But in a way, it kind of makes sense. Again, like the prequel cartoon, it seems like it's going to be for like teenager kids or something, or preteens or whatever. I don't know. Again, I don't know who it's for, but it's not for me.
Right.
But I'm okay with it if they find their audience. Great, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
and I could be wrong. The Ninja Turtles movie was great. You know, that last Ninja Turtle movie was great.
I was like the Michael Bay one.
Yeah.
So all right, so Jeff, I had another thought watching Transformers the movie, and I know you're also a fan of G.I. Joe the movie. So I'm curious if my head's in the right space here. If you take both movies and strip them down to just their core outline, they're the same movie, right? Because it is all about, you have brash, young, new hero, ultimately becomes the new leader, but has to go through a hero's journey, right? But you also have, we're taking this new third-party bad guy, and they're coming in and transforming the old bad guys that you know, right? So you have Cobra La, you have Unicron. It's like, it's like they clearly sat down and just came up with one template and said, we're doing this for both movies.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, 100%. It is the young hero's journey replaced by a new bad guy who's slightly more powerful than the old bad guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was just curious. So, man.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the director of Transformers 1 to see what he had worked on before, but he's a Pixar guy, so he just kind of came up through The Incredibles. You know, like he went from artist to a supervisor to a writer, director, but his first directing job was Toy Story 4. So this is his second directing job.
Of the
new Transformers.
Okay.
Transformer 1, yeah.
Okay. I sorry. I heard Transformer 1. I thought you meant the Bay movie. I was like, oh, Bay didn't direct that? But I got you now. I got you.
But I imagine those Bay movies are they're fans. There are people who love those films.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say there must be. There have been 7 of them. How many?
They made enough money to keep going. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Which is, I mean, if you think about it, the only rebooted Bay property to succeed, right? The Ninja Turtles didn't. He did another one, right? Let me look it up.
He wasn't in charge of those G.I. Joe films, was he?
Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. No,
because those are bad. So I thought they were Michael Bay.
Let me see filmography. Hang on.
Nothing. Huh.
Bad Boys, The Island. No, I guess not. I guess it was. Wow, they don't even list TMNT on this filmography list. I guess he was not the director of it, just the producer.
Bumblebee is my favorite of the newer movies.
I've heard it's really
that the Bayformer stuff like basically drove it to the ground before we got to Bumblebee. So by the time like the casual fans were all out, like they were all like, I don't care, I don't want to see another one of these.
That was me. I mean, yeah, I and the only reason I would watch it today is because I've heard from a lot of you, no, it's really good, and I'm like, well, fuck, all right, I guess I better. So, but yeah, I again, this is just to kind of bring this around to the comics. This is the revival we always needed, right?
Yeah.
This is a great comparison between this and Transformers the movie, which is, this is kind of how you do it. You know, it's like, yeah, they're they're ramping up the stakes in this, but it's still faithful to all the old stuff. Oh, you got a good cover. That's so.
It ramps up the stakes, but it also kind of like keeps them just low key enough for fandom to be like, but they might be able to come back, just like with all comics, like
exactly.
We can figure out a way to bring these guys back if we kill them off right now. So like, if you're sad that we've killed off Ironhide or whoever, like we've shown you there's a way to bring them back.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I mean,
they're dead in a kid's eye. That's the thing that gets me. Is like your advancement of toys instead of just retirement was death.
Yeah, exactly. Because I assume they wanted everyone to be like, well, I don't need this Megatron toy anymore. Throw it in the trash. I need Galvatron. It's like I'm pretty sure that was the thinking, but
I feel like that was just like the writer's mentality though at the time. Like, is in like live action stuff, like whenever actors left shows or whatever, like in soap operas or whatever, killed off. Like they weren't like, oh, we're moving to Maryland. They were just like, no, you died of cancer or something. Like, you're never coming back to the show ever.
Well, remember how Charlie Sheen showed back up on 2.5 Men at the very last episode, and they dropped a piano on him to kill him, so that he's for sure dead. Even though the show's ending, he will never come back.
He will never come back.
This is the one Transformer book I had because this was a Kyle recommendation of what if the Autobots failed and they are stuck on Cybertron and the Decepticons are fascists. They just take over the world. I mean, it's just the darkest timeline. I mean, this would be a Trump presidency. If you want to read what it would be like, it would be if Megatron ran the world. It is fascinating. The art is fantastic. I haven't finished it, but the art is probably the best Transformer art I've ever seen in a comic.
Wow.
Yeah, because
who's it written by?
It's digital. Yeah. I forget who wrote this because I didn't recognize his name. Shane McCarthy. Yeah, and they've got a bunch of different people on art, but it's consistent. That's the thing, is like so far everything's been pretty good, or they've stayed relatively the same. They've kind of adapted, I guess, the old Marvel way of like, hey, can you draw like Jack Kirby? You'll take over a Jack Kirby book. Which I don't think exists anymore. No artist
house style.
Yeah, there's no house style, I believe, anymore. Because I look at some of the collections I get, and when they change artist, it's such a drastic change that it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
Oh, can I make one last complaint about Transformers the movie, which is why, like, I'm thinking of the moment where the weird little guy befriends the Dinobots. I forget his name.
Oh, the kid?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like the tiny robot, right? They're on.
Yeah.
It's during the third act, and they're on all these other planets, right?
Wheelie, I think is his name.
Wheelie, thank you. Yeah.
Him, Wheelie, him, friend.
Why would robots on other planets have Autobot or Decepticon symbols on them? Other than when you're in the store to identify whether they're good or bad.
Maybe it's like the Chinese tattoo, like a Chinese symbol where people just get those Chinese symbols. They don't know what they say. They're just like, yeah. It means peace
they've
or whatever.
adapted it as Decepticon and Autobot.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things.
Exactly. I don't know. It kept bugging me because he's writing like Grimtooth.
So are you questioning like the existence of robots, and is there a higher being who has created robots and then designated them with different symbols?
No, it was more going back to my 10-year-old brain wondering, is the entire universe split between Autobots and Decepticons? Is this just a universal thing? So
I was also like, why is everybody a robot? Like, why are we the only organic?
Yeah.
See, that's my theory, is like, I think that Transformers and the Transformer universe were the only created thing, and that because of this, men grew out of a mistake in science.
Oh, wow.
That's
real science fiction here.
Yeah.
I like it.
it's like hard science fiction.
And Decepticons are born to eradicate humans.
So what you stumbled on is an alternate version of Transformers, as if conceived and written by Isaac Asimov.
I'm down.
I am too. That's kind of cool.
Because I would open up with a scene of the Decepticons landing on a peaceful planet and then just destroying everything inside and then just building it into like a mega city.
Nice. I like it.
All right. So you guys want to go through comics and movies? Anything big this week that you watched or read?
Yeah, I need to grab mine because I wouldn't. They're just on the other side of this thing. They're home.
I hope everyone watched X-Men 97.
I'm only through, as I posted in our Discord, I'm only through episode 5. Wow. If you had told me an X-Men 97 cartoon was going to make me choke up, I would have laughed in your face, and yet here we are. So, my God, that episode.
This cartoon is better than the entire movie run. Entire movie.
But which I'm not disagreeing with you, but here's the thing, because I know he's still commenting on social media. What do we think happened with the showrunner? That he got laid off? I mean, this thing was a massive hit. And it's like, if I were Disney, they're like, oh, we absolutely want to bring him back for season 2. Like,
well, apparently season 2 is complete. Shelby read because she went to go read about this guy. And so that I guess he lays the groundwork for everything. And so everything is already laid out for season 2. Yeah, I'm. This show's amazing, and I can't believe it's all on one guy's shoulders. So the fact that he's leaving after season 2, or what he's done for season 2 is already complete.
Yeah,
maybe we'll see a change. But damn, the show's so good. It's taking the best stories out of the comics and adapting them into 3 and 5 episode series, and just being fucking fantastic.
Well, and not even that. I feel like he has this really good sixth sense about what stories shouldn't be dragged out. Like I was kind of flabbergasted. He took all of Inferno and just truncated it down to 30 minutes.
Yes.
Right? And it worked, because I think he realized this doesn't need to be a big drawn out thing, right? Like the core story is X, Y, and Z, and we can fit that in 30 minutes. So
yeah.
It's interesting how they're taking all these like from very disparate times in the X-Men and just smushing them together. So,
which is why I asked, because again, they clearly, I mean, I guess kind of spoilers, they're clearly setting up Cable's origin. But I was like, wasn't Cable in the original show? Like, how did they not do this already? So I was very confused about that. And that's why I asked you guys in the chat. I guess he was in it, but they never gave his origin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember.
They could just have him drop in and drop out, and
I think he got the Matrix of Leadership, and then
it was supposed to go to Ultra Magnus, but then it ended up going to Cable. It's all very confusing.
I can't wait till you get to the end and you see what they do. I mean, it's really good. It amazes me how the movies pale in comparison to what the TV show is doing.
Yeah. The sad thing is, this does not make me want to go watch the original series, because I feel like this is so much better than the original series. That
it's a good foundation, though. So, if you want to go back and go, hey, what's the origin of Nightcrawler in this world? You can go watch that episode.
Gotcha.
It's fun to just drop in on different characters at different times.
All right, that's fair.
But you finished X-Men, right, Jeff?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so good. You just so much is about to happen, and you're just not even ready for it, Josh.
It's all right. I will catch up. I've been trying to catch up now that I'm off work. so that we could all discuss it, because I know it, like, they just dropped the last episode last week or this week.
Mhm.
this
Okay.
week.
Yeah, it's past Wednesday.
So I should be caught up soon.
Jeff, what do you got for comics?
So this week I read this was, I think, from a couple of weeks ago, Blood Brothers Mother. This is amazing. This blew my mind. I've really gotten into Western comics lately. This is Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Rizzo. Just a gritty Western comic. The artwork is beautiful.
Almost picked that up, and then I didn't at the last minute. That is beautiful art. Wow.
Yeah.
Azzarello's a great writer too.
Yeah, it does kind of a bit of a bait and switch kind of thing, where you think you're following one story and then it turns out you're following something else. But it's great. I'm excited to see where it goes. Beautiful story. I also read the second issue of Uncanny Valley by Tony Fleece.
How is
I forgot to pick that up. Damn it.
Because I almost picked up the first issue because I'm like, I want to read about classic cartoon characters.
Good.
Is it good? Shit. All right, I'll have to find
Yeah,
it.
it's good. This one has a Wile E. Coyote kind of character on it that's chasing them around. Yeah, it's great. And then the last thing I've had a chance to read so far this week is the Doom special.
I put that back. I almost got it, and then I was like, I kind of don't want to read Hickman writing Doom again. So, is it good?
It's pretty badass. I don't understand in general, what the point of the book is. It doesn't feel like it's setting anything. It almost feels like a one-off Elseworld story kind of thing. A what if, I guess. I don't know why it's not a what if book.
Yeah.
But artwork is great in it. It's just Doom and Valeria, kind of at the end of time, sort of kind of story. And I like it when Hickman writes those two because they're both kind of arrogant jerks. I think that's how Hickman tends to write them. But yeah, it tells a one-off story. Again, Hickman's relationship with Marvel is interesting because it feels like he's kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out
Yeah.
all the time, kind of, sort of. But when he's both feet in, he's like, I'm going to change the whole scope of the universe.
Exactly.
Krakoa.
Yeah. But then when he's kind of 1 in, 1 out, I'm like, well, what are you doing? I don't, am I in for a ride, or are you gonna bolt halfway through this thing? So.
Which again, Krakoa.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
oh man.
I hear that was Marvel's fault though, that they were that he had his track down for 3 years and he was on track, and then Marvel was like, oh, this blew up. Now we're gonna start spinning this thing off. Can we draw it out and stuff like that?
No, you just
And so
look,
once his contract was up, he's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm done.
you either commit, right? As Marvel, you commit to the creator, or you don't. I mean, it's.
I want to know what happened to Gods. Is Gods I started off with that, and I know they kept teasing it all throughout the Marvel universe,
Yeah.
months into it, and then it just fizzled. I'm like, it just doesn't feel important at all. Once the book started, I didn't know what
I was able
happening.
to score those books at half price books. So people were just getting rid of Gods.
Damn! Wow! Wow! Wild.
Is that all your books?
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to read. It was a busy week for me, so
Yeah. Josh,
I still have a
what
stack of unread stuff. But
Oh,
Yeah, I was gonna say most of the stuff I read, I went through my pile of books from 3 weeks ago. I already shelved them. I do want to make one point though. Anyone else reading Batman First Night?
No.
Okay. The second issue came out, and by the end of the issue, I realized something that I think it's written by Dan Jurgens. That Jurgens is doing in it that's really fascinating, which is apart from setting the book in the years leading up to the outbreak of World War II, and it has this very pulp feel to it. One of the things in the first issue that really threw me off was Alfred is dead. So this is basically a world in which Bruce Wayne has nobody he can lean on as Batman. And the second issue reinforces something I think Jurgens is doing that's really brilliant, which is it's becoming clear that this book is taking some of those core anchors of Batman and removing them. to explore what would Batman be like. So issue 2 kind of doubles down the fact that Bruce needs somebody, because like slight spoiler, at the end of the first issue, he ends up in an electric chair that gets turned on. And so as he's trying to recover from these burns, he's got nobody who can help him, right? So he's slowly building up a couple of people that he can reveal himself to. But it's this interesting exploration of like, what does it mean for Batman to exist in a world where he has no support, right? That's the first anchor. Yeah. The second anchor is, and this really comes about at the end of the second issue, it is very clear that he expresses a couple of times, he has a no gun policy, which is a classic Batman thing, right? Guns killed his parents. He's not going to use guns. By the end of the issue, Commissioner Gordon is like, you've got to get yourself a gun. You need a gun. You're going to die, right? And the last shot, again, spoiler, the last shot is him walking into his big armory in his home where I guess he and his dad collected like safari hunting guns, and he just picks up a pistol. And so I'm like, okay, this is getting really interesting, because it's like Jurgens is really taking these core conceits of Batman and dismantling them. So I'm really interested to see where this book goes. That's one thing I read from the past. I did, of course, read Transformers number 8. I want to give huge props. This is going to sound like an insult, and it's not. I really mean it as a huge, huge thing. This is the first issue with the new artist, and it is seamless. The new artist is Corona, and I'm just like, I could barely tell they had switched from Daniel Warren Johnston. I mean, it looks like his art. Oh. It really is a seamless transfer, and I was very impressed by that. So,
I know that he's still writing it, but does it have the story? Does it have that moment that every one of the other comic books have, where they kill a human, and it's just like either a great panel splash page moment?
I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I will simply say this: yes and no. All right, it becomes a very core story beat in this one, so that's all I'll say. You have to read it when it comes up. I think you'll know the moment I'm referring to. So, did you?
Okay.
All you read it, Jeff, already?
Yeah, I've read it.
Okay. All right, so you probably know what I'm.
Yeah.
Saying. So yeah. I was a little torn on this, partly because of the fact that there is a lot of important shit that happens in this issue, but I kind of feel like, why are they shoving all this to this weird anthology book, right? Like, really important stuff for all these titles happens in this issue, and I'm like, the fuck, what is happening? So anyway. All right,
I gotta show the panel of the week from that.
I'm curious which one. Yeah, is it going to be the same one? It is. I just
Baroness. She sits up.
I just want to marry her. She'd break my heart and then murder me. But just so great.
I loved it. I mean, it is a lot of stuff that's going on in their book, but I figure why not double down, because the first year has been great.
Yeah.
I mean, all the Transformers, the G.I. Joe stories, they've all been great, fun reads. If you get Free Comic Book Day and get that, and you don't know, you can go back and get the there's a trade out already of one book.
Yes. It just came out.
Void Rivals.
No, and then one more came out. It was either, I think it was Transformers.
It's got 6 issues out.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the thing they're doing in the Energon universe that I find so fascinating is they have this uncanny ability to know when to be faithful to the original source material and when to just mix it up. And I feel like they haven't really flubbed that yet at all. I mean, they're making all these great decisions. So
it's like they keep this. It's like the cool things are like the vehicles. It's like they'll do like a, hey, remember this? And
well, or like, again, in reference to the film today, a special appearance by one of the stars of that, or characters from that, in this issue, right?
Yeah.
That you're kind of, again, it felt weird because I was like, is this in honor of the anniversary? Like, I was trying to place it. Did they know we're watching this? Like, what's going on? The only other book that I had a chance to read this week is Fantastic Four 20.
I love that book.
Man, this book is so good. I know I was a little hard on last issue. This is 1000% a return to form. And it is just an issue of, what do we do if we take the classic friction between Ben and Johnny and we just take that, but we just put it in the most mundane circumstance. So they both work at a grocery store. And they are competing for, it's not like
Employee of the month or something.
Employee of the month, yeah, exactly. And that's it. And that's the entire issue. And I was just laughing my ass off the entire time because it's so... Ryan North just gets these characters. He gets it. I think that's honestly why I'm souring so much on Hickman, is because and this comes a bit from finishing all the Marvels, which I got done with last week, I think. In that book, Wolk goes through almost Hickman's whole Avengers run, right? He kind of recaps it. Which I realized is why I never liked Secret Wars, because I never realized Secret Wars was the end point for this long Avengers run. I read it cold, right? It makes zero sense if you read it cold.
Exactly.
Hickman loves to, as we just said, kind of dismantle everything. What I want from Fantastic Four is Johnny and Ben arguing about Employee of the Month. Like, that's what I want in this book. And North just gets it. I feel like Hickman never got that. Hickman's all about Reed, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And so, anyway, love that. I have a whole bunch of other things here that I've not had a chance to read. I am curious, though, if anyone else picked this up.
That's great. I love that book, too. Yeah.
It's written by Scotty Young, Clay. So I don't know if you know that. Yeah. Not drawn by him, written by him.
Okay. Yeah, he's been doing a lot more writing and hiring artists.
Well, so I almost put this back, but my store at Zeus, they were like, we've sold out of that. I was like, oh, I guess I better get it then. So I went ahead and picked it up. But I'm really intrigued by it. It's like a horror Western. Is that accurate, Jeff? Okay. So
that's cool.
Looks good. And then some other weird shit. I did point this out earlier to Clay, this My Bad.
I almost picked that up, but I did not.
I haven't read it yet. I picked it up solely because Mark Russell writes a story and because it was compared to Giffen and Maguire's Justice League, which, again, this cover very much, it's not by Maguire, but it calls back to
definitely.
That looks like Oberon. Who was that? Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. It looks fun. It looks funny. So I'm kind of intrigued to read it, but I'll have more next week. But that's it. That's all I had a chance to read this week. So
I think he's writing. Mark Russell is going back to Marvel, and he's writing the new X Factor series.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I wonder what their take on X Factor is going to be.
I don't know, but that's why I'm really interested, because I think it's one of those government mutant, kind of like going back to old school, what X Factor was originally.
We're investigating, but also recruiting.
Yeah, kind of thing. and with Mark Russell writing it, like I'm super curious as to how he would portray the X-Men. You know?
Yeah.
And who are his team? I didn't even look at the X-Men team or the X Factor team.
I mean, is he going back to the OG team? Because they just reintroduced them, right?
I think it's he's pulling from a couple of different X-Factor, like Havoc is on it, but then I think Angel is also on it.
Okay.
I forget. I don't remember who I have to go hunt down the artwork or something, but
okay. Well, books I got this week. I mean, I still was able to go through Free Comic Book Day, like the Energon. Universe book. I was reading All Hail Megatron again for today's show. Great Transformer story. I caught up on Avenger Twilight, the Chip Zdarsky book of the Avengers in the future. First three issues got me super hyped. These, not so much, not as much. It was like the villain is just okay, and the big reveal was just all right. And, you know, it's just okay. Like the first three got me so hyped for it, and then these last two were just like, oh, okay. All right, so this is where that story's going.
I hate it when that happens.
Spider-Man Ultimate Universe Free Comic Book Day, kind of highlighting the stuff that's coming out. I was kind of interested in the Ultimate Universe because there is this story inside where, because the Ultimate Universe didn't last very long, there were so many heroes that never got introduced. But there's a hall of suits that is just for heroes that never happened.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so there's that's probably the coolest story in this one. I finally got caught up on Moon Knight because I can't go back to my comic book store until so last time I was in, Aaron over at Urban Legends goes, what do you think of the new Moon Knight? And I was like, well, I'm not caught up. And he's like, you were the one person I can talk about Moon Knight with. Read it before you come back. And so I like had to read it before I could get new comics. And they have killed off Mark Spector in the last series. And in the Vengeance of the Moon Knight is this new Moon Knight shows up, and Moon Knight has a whole crew, or previously Moon Knight has a whole crew that's still around from the stuff that happened in the Moon Knight series. But this new guy shows up in the suit and is just going crazy, carving moons into people's heads, beating the shit out of people, just being Moon Knight. Damn, violent. And even the bad guys go like, he's like once removed from the Punisher in his level of violence. And they do reveal, so spoilers for Moon Knight, who he is, because it goes into Blood Hunt. It's the Shroud. Do you guys remember the Shroud?
Oh, the Shroud.
Oh, who's that?
He was like a 90s hero, but also a villain. Like he was a hero for a while, and then he like kind of tried to go undercover, but then I remember him as a villain for a while.
Huh.
And so he has like dark force energy shit, like cloak and
okay.
I thought Nightcrawler had it too. When he would teleport, he would go into that dark force dimension and then come out, which they show in the comic, or in the X-Men 97. They show Nightcrawler teleport with Wolverine and another dude. They show how it happened.
Oh, I can't.
And I was just like, this is fucking amazing. But because Shroud loses control of his powers at the end of Vengeance of Moon Knight, he's part of the reason the world goes dark. And that's where Blood Hunt comes in. So,
okay. Wow. So it's actually really tied into that.
Very much tied in.
It's all Jed McKay.
Okay.
Yeah, because his crew that is part of the Moon Knight's, established family here are vampires. And so he has vampires that work for him, but now we have vampires coming out of the darkness, or coming out into the darkness, because the whole world has gone black from the dark matter that was, I don't know, either taken over. They haven't really explained it, but the Shroud essentially just lost control of his power, and it just went into the sky and blacked out the sun.
Damn.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's all I've read this week. So, any movies, anything you guys watched that you really dug?
Oh,
go ahead, Josh.
No, you go ahead.
I started a rewatch of Warehouse 13.
I saw that on the notes. I need to go. I watched the first few episodes way back when, but then I lost cable, so I didn't have a chance to watch it.
I think it's really entertaining. It's one of those kind of like, I don't know what I'd call them, like psych or
procedural,
kind of
procedural, right?
Procedural, but like easy television. Like it's not like watching Law and Order or something like that. It's much more like family friendly, I guess.
Like cozy, I think is the
cozy.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it, like that and Eureka. and I think they're produced by the same. I know they had a crossover episode at one point, but yeah, Warehouse 13 is it's the premise is it's a government organization that goes out to hunts mystical items. And so it might be like the spear that killed Caesar, or the dagger that killed Caesar, or something has some kind of mystical powers, and somebody has stumbled across it, and then they have to go. And it's like an X-Files, but family friendly, I guess, sort of, kind of. But yeah, I think it's it's super entertaining, very easy to watch.
What's the best object that they go after?
There was so in the episodes that I watched, there was there was a quill from, I don't know if it was the quill or it had something to do with Shakespeare. It's like a play that Shakespeare wrote or something, and it was like the pages were killing people. And so they talk about Lincoln's hat. Like, it's just, and the warehouse is like an actual warehouse, like out in Nevada somewhere. So you can go into the warehouse, and it's like that last scene of what is it, Temple of Doom, where it's just this giant ending space with all these like crates stacked up.
That's Raiders.
Oh, Raiders.
Yeah, because of
it's
the case.
Yeah, so it's sort of like the Raiders warehouse. Like, that's where they work out of. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
I like that. Oddly enough, that was kind of the premise of Friday the 13th, the series.
Oh, really?
Was a series. Yeah, the movie had a series that had nothing to do with the movies, and it was just some people who were like in an antique shop that would go get these items that were like attached to the horror realm.
Huh.
Yeah, that's what Friday the 13th, the series, is about.
Does Jason show up at all? That's weird.
Has nothing to do with Jason. Just called Friday the 13th, the series.
But Friday the 13th was kind of originally pitched as like a anthology series, because was it the third one that has nothing to do with this, like the series?
Oh, interesting.
Am I thinking of a different thing?
Oh, that's Halloween.
Oh, it's Halloween.
Yeah, because Halloween 3 doesn't have Michael Myers, or it has Michael Myers in it on the TV as they're showing an advertisement for Halloween. But the story, the story is just about technology and these masks that are going to sacrifice a bunch of children.
Yeah, it has nothing to do.
Good times. Josh, what did you say you watched?
So currently watching two shows, Fallout and Haunting of Hill House. And I don't know if you guys are watching Fallout or are fans of it, but it is phenomenal. It is so good. If you've got Prime, I'm really hoping they're going to put this out on like physical media at some point. It's been such a big success. I think they'd be stupid not to, because they put out like The Boys and stuff on DVD and Blu-ray, right? Or not?
I think so.
I think so.
So it's phenomenal. And
yeah.
They have. Okay. I would say the great thing about the show is you don't have to be a fan of the games or even have played them to watch it. And I say that because neither my wife or daughter has played any of the games, and they're both totally into it. And it's just a fantastic show, especially if you are a Walter Goggins fan, because he plays the ghoul and he's amazing in the role.
When is he not?
I know.
Every show he's ever done is amazing.
But he also, like, the first thing I ever saw him in was Vice Principals. And he's such a particular type of character in that for me, it's interesting to watch him in Fallout because he brings a lot of heart and gravitas kind of to the role. Yeah. Oh man, it's great. So highly recommend. Go check out Fallout. It's only 8 episodes. We'll probably wrap up the last one tonight, actually. The other one, so my wife is a big fan of Mike Flanagan. She loved, oh God, I just blanked on it. Midnight Mass.
Okay.
And so we're now currently watching The Haunting of Hill House based on the classic Shirley Jackson novel. It is great. It is really, really great. And I am a huge fan of the original movie. I don't know if you haven't ever seen it. The 1960s black and white The Haunting is one of the best horror films ever made, in my opinion. But they do some interesting stuff in this. I was kind of worried how they're going to drag this out over. It's a fair number. It's like at least 10 or 11 episodes, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that gets me in this that I was not expecting is watching the credits in the first episode. I saw a name and I was like, no way. One of the big actors in this, and apparently Flanagan likes him a lot, so I know he's in other things he's done, is E.T.'s own Henry Thomas.
Yeah.
And one of the amazing casting decisions they made is that Henry Thomas plays a younger version of the father. The older version is played by Timothy Hutton, and it is perfect casting.
Wow.
Because not just down to the way they both kind of look now, but also a lot of their mannerisms and stuff kind of work. It's really impressive. So yeah, it's a great show. Genuinely terrifying. We're kind of hitting the point. We're in the last third, so we're hitting the point where a lot of what felt like random scary shit at the beginning is getting explained. And it's been interesting. So and I just want to give props to one episode in particular. It was the one we watched. God, what was it? Maybe episode 7 or 8. No, it can't be that far. Episode 6 or 7 takes place at a funeral. And as you watch it, it's, again, as everything that does this, when it does it subtly, you only realize it afterwards. It's almost all one shot. There are some clear kind of edit moments that they wrap in, sort of like they did in Birdman, but it feels like you're watching a stage play. But I say that only because I don't know if Flanagan directed that one, but there are some... They use it to the advantage. There are some genuinely terrifying background horror moments that work because you realize you're watching only one shot, right? So like an actor will walk this way and the camera will pan and you'll just see something in the background behind them. And you're like, what the fuck was that? Right. And then they pan back and it's gone. And you're like, what just happened? So anyway, really, really good. Highly, highly recommend. And then just one last call out I want to make. We started watching as our dinner time show Hacks with Gene Smart. And it's the actor who is not, I'm going to butcher this. Who was the other most famous guy in SNL when Eddie Murphy started?
Joe Piscopo?
Yes. So it's the actor who's not Joe Piscopo. Joe Piscopo always reminds me of Joe Piscopo. Yeah, that makes no sense. But
Christopher McDonald?
Well, let me look him up. That's probably
him. Yeah, because I'm just looking at the people and.
Oh, sorry, that's probably really loud. Yeah, that's him. It just means always reminded me of Joe Piscopo.
I mean, he's Scooter. I mean, Shooter McGavin from.
Yeah. But anyway, it is really great. I was saying to Clay in the pre-show, I would say you have to get to about episode 3. We just watched 4 before I think it finally starts to click, or not click really, like find its groove, because it's one of those shows that is very much a comedy, but it also has a lot of, I don't want to say drama because that makes it sound. It's very heartfelt. It has some, it is very much a character study, and I mean, I'll just watch anything Jean Smart is in, honestly. So she is
pretty great.
She is like Jean Smart at like 150% in this show. It's so good. Anyway, really, really great. Highly recommend. I know there's 3 seasons. We're barely into season 1 at this point. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I've been watching, really.
Jeff, did you have something else?
Yeah, I started watching. I don't know if you guys are subscribed to Dropout TV. That's the old College Humor
Oh, no.
evolution of whatever. I was watching I don't even remember what it was called now. I got to get back to it. Smarty Pants, I think was the name of the show. So
Yeah.
they do. Yeah, there it is. They do like a lot of just. Smarty Pants is it's sort of like a bunch of TED Talks. They get a bunch of like television writers, stand-up comedians, whatever, and they will just talk about a subject for just a little bit. Like one of the topics was which cryptid is the most fun to smoke out with. Vegetables aren't real, which I found out is true. The vegetables is a culinary word. Vegetable is not a science word. So.
Really?
Yeah,
Interesting.
so
What?
things that are like lettuce is a leaf, technically, you know.
Okay.
There are tubes and stuff like that. Like those are the scientific terms. Vegetable is just a made up culinary word.
Huh.
So it's not a real thing, I guess, scientifically. But yeah, so it's like humorous, but I do learn a little bit of stuff, like when they decide to take it, you know, seriously or whatever. It's really interesting. But that Dropout TV is like, I don't know if you guys did ever watch like the old College Humor stuff. It's a bunch of sketch comedy kind of things.
Yeah.
But they've kind of since branched into like a bunch of role playing stuff where they just show people doing Dungeons and Dragons and
Well,
do like quiz
Dungeons and
shows and
Drag
whatnot.
Queens.
Dungeons and Drag Queens is on.
Heard of that, yeah.
Dropout.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's Smarty Pants.
Yeah, because I'm like looking at the different things they offer, but they want like $60 a year for stuff
pretty-
you've never heard of.
Yeah, I did end up getting a subscription because they do post some of their stuff on YouTube. It's like after it's been out
okay.
for a while. So that's how I found out about them.
They are the source of Game Changer. That's where I know them.
Yeah,
from.
they do Game Changers. They do.
I've seen clips.
I'm actually is them.
So the Smarty Pants show reminds me way back in the day when I was doing programming for adults at the DMA. One of the programs I always wanted to do that I was stealing from another museum in the Midwest that was like super hip. We all were fans of them. They had this program that I always wanted to bring to the DMA, which was basically you brought in 2 experts. One was an expert in one thing and one was an expert in another thing, but they were just 2 random topics. So you might have like puppetry and the First World War, right? And you found an expert from each of them, and you had to find just the right people because they came in and you gave them each 30 minutes to talk about their topic. And then the remainder of the time was them trying to find a way to tie it together. And then basically everyone in the audience is just drinking. And I'm like, I want to do this because it sounds amazing. And your description of Smarty Pants reminded me of that. So
Yeah.
I wish they had a free tier. I mean,
Yeah.
I do too. Like I think they would get. Which I'm just looking at the stuff. I'm like, I wonder how this. I'm sure they've got to make money. They started producing things, you know. But it's interesting how they've kind of just like they're like, we're gonna do our own thing. We're not gonna go through any distribution, whatever. Like they showed some of their stuff on YouTube, but they're like, if you want the real stuff, you got to come to us. I don't know. They seem to be doing pretty successful at it. So
how long is this
'cause
going?
no ads is amazing.
Yeah.
I think they've got at least 6 or 7 seasons of some of those shows on there.
Oh wow. Okay, so a while. Huh.
So, yeah, Smarty Pants is one of the newer shows. I think they only have 2 episodes of that out.
Okay.
But like a lot of the Dungeons, like the D&D role playing series, they've been doing for a while.
Okay. Cool. I'll have to check this out.
Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of their videos on YouTube. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna check it out. Okay, cool. Last night we watched Lisa Frankenstein.
How is that?
It is great. It is great. It is by Diablo Cody, who I'm a fan of.
Yep.
But it takes place in 1989, and this girl discovers goth. And it's so funny because she's just so not goth at the beginning. So it's almost like she becomes that. It's almost like taking the glasses off moment, but she transforms into through the help of her dead boyfriend, I guess we would say. There's a relationship there. Cole Sprouse plays this statue because she goes to the cemetery often, and she would do like etchings off of their tombstones, and she sees the statue of this guy that she just falls in love with, and like every goth girl in the 80s, you know, she wishes for it to come true. He becomes a real person, but he can't speak. So this is so wild. So and his body is like, you know, obviously of a dead person. So they have a situation where they get an ear from a person and then stitch the ear on him. So it's just he's all dead, but he has this one ear. The science of it all is the key. So they put him in a tanning bed that's broken, so that it will electrocute and shock and bring to life his ear. So they start replacing body parts together, an ear, a hand, and something else later. If you want, I don't want to spoil, but they're just, I love watching these two together. I love the soundtrack. I mean, the first thing was, like I told Shelby, I said, we got to get the soundtrack to this because it is amazing 80s music, great references. This may be my favorite Diablo Cody movie.
Nice.
So
I have to watch it. Is that on Prime?
Peacock.
Peacock.
Oh, Peacock. All right.
Yeah. So, you got a recommendation, Josh? Let's finish up and close out.
No, I do. I have two actually. One is time sensitive. The other is just the loud noise I keep banging on. I just want to give props to this keyboard I just bought by 8-Bit Do. It is designed to look like the old Nintendo Entertainment System. They have one that also looks like the Famicom. So if you prefer the Japanese version, they have that. And then in the same series, they just announced, I think it was a couple weeks ago, one that looks exactly like the Commodore 64. So if you are a Gen X kid, like most of us who grew up with all those things, and you want to bang on a keyboard that reminds you of your childhood, I highly recommend these. They're not super expensive. I think this is only like $99 for a mechanical keyboard. I mean, it's, you know, it's nice. So that's one.
It looks like it would be a keyboard in Logan's Run.
Yes.
It has that kind of aesthetic to it.
Oh, so great. I love it. Oh, and this is so stupid. Hang on. I don't use them, but it comes with these ridiculous large gamepad buttons that you can plug into it and program. So, like, if you could set these up to be like copy and paste, you could set them up to like make a sound or open things, where you just bang on them and it'll do it. And I'm like, it takes up way too much space on the desk, so I'm not going to use it. But that comes with it. Isn't that cool? All right. Anyway, the other thing. Speaking of great soundtracks, I'm going to share my screen real quick. Hang on. Speaking of great soundtracks, this just dropped yesterday. One of the best soundtracks from the 90s, which is the soundtrack to Tank Girl, is getting a limited release on vinyl. For $36 from Enjoy the Ride Records, which is the same people that put out they reissued the Ren and Stimpy You Idiot album on vinyl, which I did a couple years ago. This was an insta buy for me. I love this soundtrack. It is so good. I'm not even a like a fan of Hole, but the Hole song on this one is really good. There's an L7 song called Shove that just became one of my anthems in like the mid 90s. Anyway, highly recommend getting this. It's a fantastic lineup.
And watch Tank Girl if you've never seen Tank
and
Girl.
watch Tank Girl. It is not a bad movie. It's really not. I need to rewatch that actually.
Yeah,
So
it's pretty great.
anyway, those are just 2 quick recommendations.
What do you got, Jeff?
So this is the we're all leaving with soundtracks. We're gonna get the Transformers soundtrack, the Lisa and Frankenstein soundtrack,
Yep.
Tank Girl soundtrack. Listen to them all back to back to back. Recommendations. Go watch Warehouse 13 if you haven't ever seen that.
Oh,
show.
yeah.
Yeah,
Where's
I've seen it, so.
I think it is. I think it's also on Peacock. I found it on. Where was I watching it? I might have been watching it on Amazon. I was scrolling through. I'm thinking about getting rid of one of my streaming services, so they're all kind of on notice. I like Amazon. Amazon is this week is I'm like Amazon reminds me of going into an old school video store.
That's
And
a
like
point. Yeah, that's a good point.
it'll recommend weird stuff to me, stuff that I like. Every time I go into Netflix, it's like, you want to watch Red Notice? Are you sure? It's like the #1 movie of all time. And I'm like, I don't. Every time I scroll through Netflix, it all just becomes a blur of just Netflixy kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
Same for Disney Plus. Like if I'm not there to watch Star Wars or Marvel, I'm not really going to it.
Even if it's a terrible Hulu integration, it can't keep me.
I can't stand the Hulu integration.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
Because if you watch something on Disney Plus, you're getting commercial free. But if you happen to choose something that's on Hulu, well, you're going to get the commercials.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it drives me nuts.
Yeah.
I would rather just consistency across the board, you know? Yeah, but because I was scrolling through Amazon Prime and I was like, oh, there's like 70s porn on here. Like there's like insane thing. Like there's the curtain. Yeah, like you could find old Barbarian movies, like things that remind me of like, yeah, you go to the back of the video store and you're like, I don't know what this movie is, but I'm gonna give it a shot. And I'll watch it for like 20 minutes and then be like, okay. But I love Prime because it'll show me the weirdest stuff. And
it's got
they have no filter. They basically anything's a movie.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. That's where I found the Chris Claremont documentary. Like it's got crazy things on there. Yeah.
Yeah. They do have a lot of comic book documentaries that I've never seen.
Yeah, definitely. But Warehouse 13, check it down. It's streaming somewhere.
I mean, it's been going on for a year, but my recommendation is the Energon universe. I mean, there's a couple of trades you can get just to kind of catch up, but everything has been fun. Everything has been. So I got to say that Transformer book is at the top, but there's not a bad book in the bunch. So everything else is just the second best book.
I mean, I'm starting to kind of. Void Rivals isn't really grabbing my attention anymore. I think as a kickoff to this universe, it was an absolutely brilliant move.
Yeah, that trade is perfect to read because it has a great story before it mingles in everything else.
Yeah, so good.
I'm really enjoying what they're doing with the G.I. Joe properties too. As a kid, you're just like, oh, there's Cobra and G.I. Joe. But when you sit down and think about it, Cobra is this like amalgamation of like different people that just kind of happen to work together, and so like it shouldn't make sense. And the comics like deal with that. Like you've got Destro is an arms dealer. He has nothing to do with any of this stuff. But and Cobra Commander is from Cobra Law, and the I can't remember the name, the Buzz people or whatever the Raiders, the Swamp Raider people, whatever their names were.
I can't remember those two dudes, the hillbillies.
Yeah, but they're like their own little faction. You can see them starting to get pulled. Like Baroness is kind of off on her own, and you can see where they're starting to pull them together. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of. I mean, it's cool. It's a cool concept to watch it happen that way.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
So I guess that's it for this week. So I'm gonna end the show here. Do a
Sounds
little
good.
outro. Peace, y'all.
Take care.
Most important thing in life will always be
Hell, Bebo.
Simon Center, get the fuck out.